is somebody where I don't even know where to begin when it comes to describing her. I am so excited to have her as our guest here on the Power Transformation podcast because she is someone I can say has sincerely become my friend. She is a speaker and faith-based coach helping women in joyfully unleashing a more powerful purpose. She is a living miracle, and her story is absolutely incredible. And she is truly one of the most phenomenal people I've met in my life. And with that being said, welcome to the Power Transformation Podcast. I am your host, Alethea Felton, and I am so glad that you joined me today. We are doing some incredible things here on the show, and it is because of listeners and subscribers like you. And if you have not yet followed the Power Transformation Podcast, please do so on your favorite podcast platform, wherever you are listening, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or right here from the Buzzsprout platform. What matters is that you follow, leave great feedback, give a 5-star rating if you're on Apple Podcasts, and write a review. We want to keep this show going, and it is thriving based off of you all. We're going to jump right into this episode. Oh, and I have a YouTube channel. I'm not really marketing the YouTube channel fully yet. I will very soon, but episodes are being loaded onto the YouTube channel as well. And all you have to do is search the Power Transformation Podcast on YouTube, and it will pop right up. So go ahead, click the notification bell, subscribe even on our podcast. I think we have 27 subscribers on YouTube, but with the audio platform, we are still a top 5% ranked show. But I want to definitely build the YouTube channel. So help me by going ahead and subscribing to it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to say our regular affirmation. We change up affirmations each episode because we are speaking things into existence. And I try to connect it to what we are talking about in each episode, if you've not noticed already. And this one comes to mind when I think of Nikki and all she does and how she helps people. So I will say the affirmation once and then you repeat it. I attract good people into my life. I have to admit that the guest today on the Power Transformation Podcast is a woman that I could literally talk to for hours. That is none other than Nikki Cruz. Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And yeah, when we get together, it's like there is no time limit. But thank you so much for having me here. It's always great to chat to you. And even better when we can share that with other people, right?
Indeed, you are absolutely right. And as I said, we could talk on and on. Even starting this show, I try to give guests the entire time. We spoke for 20 minutes, even prior to us pressing record, because we just lose track of time. But it's people like that who are so good-hearted that needs to happen. And as the audience, you're going to learn a lot more about her. But this woman right here is the pure epitome of resilience, and her journey is incredible, and we're going to hop into it. But first, Nikki, I'd like to always ask a fun icebreaker question just so that we can get to know you more. And so, Nikki, your question is, what is your favorite color, and what is the reason for it being your favorite color?
Oh, wow. You don't have just one, but if I had to pick one,
It
I
can be
think
more than one.
it would be, oh, as you see them here, my purples and my turquoise, or some
Yes.
people would call it teal. And why they're my favorite colors, just have a passion about them. You know, sometimes you just feel something, but looking into it, the purples represent royalty.
Mm.
And as a faith-centered Jesus freak, which
Mhm.
I am, I really love to stand in knowing that I'm the daughter of a king.
Mm.
And that's what that shows. And in fact, gold is one of my other colors because, hey, the purple and the gold, that's your
Mhm.
crown. And then it carries the gem of turquoise and the
Yes.
turquoise stones. And that just, it's about peace, it's about tranquility, it's about transformation. And those colors mixed together, just a strong contrast. But those are my favorites. Any color of purple, my turquoise might look blue on the screen. I promise it's turquoise with a little bit of gold. See yourself with a crown with those colors in it and know you're the daughter of a king with the royalty, with the riches, and with the joy, the peace of the blue.
I love that response. It is so loaded, and some will see this on video, others will have it on audio. And I also do know I do have at least one subscriber who is visually impaired and they're totally blind. And so, just the fact of you describing what those colors mean actually is very powerful because even if a person has limited sight or no sight at all, they still have a representation of what those colors are. And you've also, in a sense, explained a bit about who you are, but I want us to take that a little bit deeper. So, if a person were to ask you, who is Nikki Cruz, in about a minute or less, tell us who is Nikki Cruz.
Well, Nikki Cruz is, as I said, a joy junkie, a Jesus freak. I'm known as the joy junkie because I just love to slot joy on everybody.
Mm.
I love to see people step out of being limited and blooming and seeing the joy that they have in their life, even if they didn't recognize it, and even more that they can impact and bring joy to the world around them. I
Mm.
am born in South Africa, now live in Texas, wife, not a mother, but I borrow else's children and they love it.
Yes.
And I'm really a very compassionate, faith based, joyful person with not much to prove to the world because I am who I am, but also incredible just as who I am. Doesn't matter what other people think, matters what God thinks. And I think that sums up who I am.
Oh, that's well stated. And I know that every time that I encounter you, Nikki, you are so full of joy and vibrance and vitality. And you've had quite a journey to get to you to where you are now. But let's just go back a little bit before we get to the crux of your transformation story, is that you of course, stated that you grew up in South Africa. So tell us a little bit about what your childhood was like and how did those early experiences shape your sense of joy and resilience, even when facing challenges later in life?
I think for me, the greatest joy that came was my dad. Both
Oh.
of my parents have loved me very much all my life, but my dad was the epitome of humility and compassion and love. And when I saw how he reached out to other people, and there are some crazy stories, he was pompous and yet humble. He would meet somebody at who ran a 7-Eleven about 45 minutes away from our house. And on Saturday morning, he would say, I'm taking you to meet someone. I wouldn't know where I was going. We would walk into the 7-Eleven. He would walk straight behind the counter into their back kitchen and sit down and say, have a cup of tea, please. But
Mm,
that was how he went in to meet these people as friends. And then they would trade stories and we would hear about these people's lives from way back.
mhm,
And that grew in me a desire to serve others, a desire to know others. And the way my dad never had to flaunt, he was a very influential businessman. He never had to flaunt it. Taught me that everybody is valuable. He would go and sit down and have tea with these people who were really struggling, usually immigrants, just trying to make ends meet. but he showed me the value of people.
Interesting.
And
Wow.
that brought about in me different value of myself because I'm people. Surprise,
Mhm.
surprise, I'm a people.
Yeah. And it's powerful that you would say that. And the reason why I talked, of course, months ago offline with you about how I had the opportunity to visit your beautiful country last year. And I absolutely fell in love with South Africa, with the people. And to hear you say that your father had um, has this gift for people and how he got you to have this appreciation of it. That is actually refreshing to hear, especially with you having grown up in a country that, of course, had apartheid and even being from the States. I remember when I was growing up. I remember because we had coverage over here in the States, and of course, you're in the States currently, but we had coverage of when it was over. I mean, everything. And we're going to talk briefly coming up later about someone you got to meet later in life that was incredible. But just the fact that you learned to value people even growing up in a country like that, how did you see beyond color, even when you were at that age growing up in a system like that?
You know, and if anyone doesn't know what the apartheid system was, it was complete segregation based on skin color. And it wasn't just what we call black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It was colored, black, white, Indian, Chinese, and Japanese, each in a different class, each with different value in the system. The education levels were different for each. Japanese people were classified as white, Chinese people weren't. They were classified as colored. Colored people were of mixed descent, black and white. So that was a different class. The schools were segregated accordingly and built up a lot of hatred and a lot of animosity from the haves and from the haves not.
Mm-hmm.
That built both ways because people were so scared of losing what they had. And that's how the whole system started, was that people were wanting to protect their jobs from the tribal people who were coming in. And I'm talking years and years ago, tribal
Mm-hmm.
people who were coming in and taking their jobs on the mines. So it was fear based.
Wow.
And that carried on forever. And then there was this fear of this person putting in power, pressing into the power they had to take advantage of the other person.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mess because people were divided into boxes and told where they belonged. And people don't belong in a box they're put in. People are free spirits. People have so much unique value. And I think that I was fortunate enough to be in environments where I did mix with people from other cultures.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I mean, when I was 15, it was the first time, I think, in South Africa that there was a young Black woman in a white school. And I mean, no offense by using the terms black and white. That's
Yes.
just
Mhm.
how we talk. So,
I say it also, black and white
so
still. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
I
but,
understand. Mm-hmm.
and it was because we
But
were
I
in a
appreciate that.
private school.
Mm-hmm.
We were in a private school.
Mm-hmm.
So she was allowed to attend our school, but she was miles away from home, different food, different. She may as well have been from a different country
Mm-hmm.
because it was so foreign. But I got to meet her. I was also a Girl Scout. We mixed a lot.
I was too. I was a Girl Scout.
And then I went on student exchange where I met a couple of other people who, these are people I would never otherwise have met on a one level.
Yes.
We had people working in our home. There were people who were working at the
Mm-hmm.
shops, but it was
Mm-hmm.
totally different level and it was not acceptable to communicate. But my
Yeah.
sisters and I all broke those boundaries. I think terrified my parents as to what kind of trouble we were going to get into.
Ah, I see. Okay.
And it didn't matter. We saw the value of people individually.
Yeah.
I think it was part of God's blessing to me.
I think so too. And the reason why I touched on that is throughout your life, as you continue to grow, you had other experiences. And the reason why I'm asking this is because it leads even to the platform of where you are now. But when you were 14, you were a part of the South African National Springboard Championship and you came in last, but you continued to persevere in your life. But I wanted to touch briefly on this. You shared with me a while back you were an exchange student in Italy where you didn't know the language. It was a total culture shock for you. And so how did that, Nikki, that exchange student situation step you into discomfort at such a young age that will ultimately prepare you for other leaps of faith later in life, particularly something that happened in your life for 11 years?
Think that being an exchange student where nobody around you understands you,
Mm,
and in fact, you don't understand them, having found the basis to laugh at yourself,
mm,
having found the ability to be resilient, regardless of the confusion or the homesickness or anything else.
mhm.
I mean, mixing up words and having misunderstandings for days. I thought my grandmother was feeding me dog because the word dog and meat are so similar.
Ah,
And not having expressed it, she and I just didn't talk to each other for a couple of days. This was my nonna in Italy when I was on student exchange,
okay.
and learning how communication is so important.
Ooh.
That was huge for me. I mean, language only goes so far. Your heart and your compassion for people, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
is what comes through in the language you speak. So being there and not understanding most things that were going on,
Mm,
how you present yourself, whether there's a smile on your face or a scowl,
mm.
communicates as much as your language.
Wow.
And that was a big part of how I got through that time.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you for that because this leads me into wanting to connect it with something that happened to you. That exchange situation helped you in moments of discomfort where you had to adjust. Nikki, take us now to a moment in your life where you had what could be seen as a very uncomfortable situation that affected your physical body. So take us to that story of what happened to you and what had you seemingly bound for 11 years and a miracle that happened to you. You can take it any direction that you want. And then just kind of tell us about what that journey of healing taught you about the relationship between faith and joy.
Oh, I could talk on this for
I
days, so
know.
I will
So
keep it
let's say,
short.
because girl, we get to talking. So let's say no more than 5 minutes. Just kind of
Wow.
tell us that Cliff's Note version of it.
Well, I'm sure many of our viewers, and I'm sure people who have had asthma attacks.
Hmm.
And I was a severe asthma sufferer for a long time. And one day I had a very severe asthma attack. My heart rate was through the roof. They found it very difficult to stabilize me.
Hmm.
And then I seemed fine. We got it going. We had all sorts of people there. I was in the hospital and they kept me overnight. And my heart rate was running at over 187 beats a minute.
What? Wait a minute.
Yeah,
187 beats per
yeah,
minute? Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
goodness.
So my heart rate was high and elevated. They'd had to turn all the alarms off on the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning, I seemed fine. I was a bit shaky. My heart rate was still high. So I got up to use the restroom, put my hand on the drip, IV, and started standing up, and every single limb flew in an opposite direction. My hands distorted. I went into dystonia. I was shaking as though I was having an epileptic seizure,
Mm.
which I wasn't. But even though they turned them off, the alarms started going off on the monitors because my heart rate had gone so high. And I had absolutely no control over my limbs. They began to freeze in funny positions. My hands were stuck behind my back. My legs were swinging out. And I was now fallen back onto the bed, knocked the IV pole over. And I was scared. I was scared. The shaking didn't stop. I just carried on shaking. Couldn't control anything. And that was the start of my 11-year journey.
Mm.
I never regained use at that point of my limbs. The dystonia had me spasming in different conditions, different positions. The shakes, the only thing I could do was make milkshake. If you put it in my hands, I had no control. And I thought it was going to go away as fast as it came on. And I went through so many tests. They were trying to find out what had caused it, why. I had all the tests for medical blood things, for serotonin syndrome, you name it, and there were
Mm.
no answers. And this is similar to a functional movement disorder, which is a stress related response. It's usually PT.
Nikki, really, really quickly, I'm sorry to cut you off. For clarity, because I'm not familiar with that and I'm pretty health savvy. What is dystonia? What is that?
Okay. Dystonia is where your muscles freeze in a particular
Oh,
position. So you will often see people who have cerebral palsy with their
oh,
hands like that.
yes.
So
Uh-huh.
that would often happen. But sometimes it would be that my arm would get stuck like that,
Oh,
or almost like a cramp, or my head would get stuck sideways until the muscles.
oh,
So it's your
okay.
muscles freezing in a certain position.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. So,
Continue. Mhm.
yeah, and incredibly painful as well.
I can imagine. Whew.
So they tried to diagnose this. They looked at it as um, a result of the trauma of that final asthma attack
Mhm.
and didn't fit that diagnosis of a functional movement disorder because that only affects top or bottom or left or right. Mine was all four. Needless to say, we carried on the search, never found anything, and they put it down to just being the results of that attack, that asthma attack.
Wow.
Put me in a wheelchair because I couldn't move. I couldn't walk. And I would spasm over the back with my spasms and shakes
Oh,
and all the rest. I shook when I was awake. I shook when I was asleep. I spasmed backwards with the dystonia, went flying over the back of my wheelchair and broke a few ribs.
oh my goodness.
So
Wow.
I couldn't use an automatic wheelchair because I couldn't control it.
Mhm.
So I used a manual wheelchair, which I had great difficulty in wheeling myself, but I was strapped into it. I had braces on my arms because after a couple of weeks, I had developed carpal tunnel from the constant spasming. And that went on for 11 years.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. Tell me about your faith in that moment. Did you ever get to a point where you were in such despair, where you just wanted to give up on everything? Was your faith consistent? Take us through all of this. Were you begging and crying out for God to help you? Were you even a Christian then? Just so many questions. Take us to that emotional and spiritual
I
aspect
had,
and how faith and joy played a part in all of this.
well, I had been a Christian since I was 9 years old,
Okay.
um, in a family that were not believers. However, going through this journey, people had abandoned me. I was
Mm,
very difficult to be around. It was uncomfortable for them. And the one person who never abandoned me was God. So I actually drew closer to him. We had
mm,
moved to the States, but this happened once we were living here
mm,
and my family wasn't around. So we were very isolated, but God was there. He was always encouraging. And there were days when I got very upset, but
mm,
more heartbroken and in pain. And this wasn't working and that wasn't working. But I still went back to God, I trust you. I was on huge amounts of medication, some of
mm.
which affected my memory and my moods. The one time when I shifted that focus and became really angry because I knew God was going to heal me just as quickly as he got me into that chair. And my neurologist turned around and said to me one day, "You'll never walk again.
Your
It's
neurologist said this?
it's
Wow.
been too long. It's
Oh.
been too long. You will never walk again."
Mm,
And I was devastated.
mm, mm,
I was furious with God because he had promised. And because I knew my life was worth more than sitting in this dumb wheelchair.
mhm.
And I really went on in a little temper tantrum with God, fortunately, only for about 3.5 weeks.
I'm sure. I'm
And then
sure.
I was just so miserable. And I decided that I was going to be the best version of myself, whether I was in a wheelchair or
Mm,
walking. And I
mm.
said to God, come and partner with me in this. And I went to God with a little bit of shame, after yelling at him for 3 weeks and saying, when you yell at God and say, you don't exist, so I'm not talking to you,
Yeah.
And in that moment, I began to recognize what I could do and what I did have. And I found two things: gratitude and joy. So
Mm,
much joy in recognizing my value, in knowing who I was. And the only difference was, instead of standing in my faith, I had looked at what a man had said over me. I took my eyes off God and I focused on something the world believed. And in
mm.
those 3 weeks, I'd begun believing I was useless because I was a cripple and was going to be like that the rest of my life. It was only when I chose to see it differently and I chose to believe I could be more than a cripple in a wheelchair. I
That's
could
right.
be a success in a wheelchair.
That's right.
When I chose that, my life changed. My mindset changed. I found the joy. I found the passion. Just that simple joy and passion rubbed off on the people around me. Their
So,
lives changed.
so how did you turn that pain into purpose and power?
Well, having recognized that I had value, I just shared that joy. And I was
Hmm.
still in my wheelchair. Should I wait for the next bit?
Mm,
So
mm.
I said, I'm going to be the best version of me. And
Yes.
you might notice I'm not in a wheelchair anymore.
Hmm.
As I shared with people, I became more empowered to share more, to find more gratitude. And one day I was in the bathroom. I reached back for my wheelchair. This was after I asked God to just touch me.
Mm.
And it was on a church service online. And I looked back and my wheelchair wasn't there. I'd walked without realizing it.
Oh
And
my
that was
goodness.
after 3 months of me choosing joy and God healing my heart, my spirit, my mind. And now my body was healed.
Girl. Oh my gosh. Well, take me to that moment when it dawned on you. How did you feel? Did you cry? Did you shout? Were you shocked? Like, take us to that moment. This is so incredible.
Like so many of us, I'm leaning over the bath. And I
Uh-huh.
reach back for my wheelchair and it's not there. So I look around and I look around. But the first thing that went through my mind was, you didn't turn the brakes on, didn't put the brakes on your wheelchair.
Um,
Self-condemnation. Isn't that so often our first
yeah.
go-to? Anyway, I ended up standing around, looking over my shoulder, walking back to the living room where my hospital bed was, and there was my wheelchair.
Mm.
And that was the first time, even though I'd been walking, that I realized I was walking. And I don't remember the exact emotion at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember thinking and then walking down the corridor where my wheelchair didn't fit to my husband's office yelling, "Honey, honey, look, I can walk, I can walk." And then I walked out, I swooped up my cat, who was kind of frightened because usually when I held her, it was like, "Eh."
Yeah.
So she was a bit frightened. I went dancing around in the garden. I walked down the steps, and my husband was running around after me, going, "Full, honey, careful." And then I sat. I remember this so distinctly. I sat in every chair there was to sit in the living
Oh,
room
wow.
because I could choose where to sit.
My
I
God.
had the choice of where to sit. Then I took a video, but my husband had to help me. I'd shook so badly that I hadn't been using a cell phone or a computer.
Mhm.
He had to help me, and I'm video recording me walking so that I can
Wow.
send it to my parents. And then we sat down and I said to him, "Well, what do you think, honey?" And he said, "I have to go and fix the air conditioner."
He look, he had to go and process it himself. That's what he had to do.
And
Oh,
meantime, in
Nikki.
my mind, I'm already making plans. I
Of
can do
course.
this, I can do that, I can do the other thing. I mean, 11 years, I was not able to feed myself,
Mm.
dress, brush my hair, or do anything for myself.
Oh, Nikki. Oh my gosh. Your story is so incredible. And I want to be respectful of our original time. So we don't have a lot of time left, but I have got to say this to you. Not only did you not have it to stop there, you kept going. And so as we start to kind of come to a close, oh my goodness, girls, this is just so powerful. Take us to your jump program. Tell us what jump is about. We know that it's rooted in joy and purpose, but what inspired you to create it? Tell us about it and how are you using it to empower others?
Thank you.
Mhm.
This is so close to my heart. You remember I said I made that decision to be the best version of myself, regardless of
Yes.
my circumstances?
Hmm.
And I see so many people out there who are carrying out roles, be it leadership, be it a mother, and believe they're limited by their circumstances. And other people aren't in a wheelchair,
Hmm.
but what are they strapped into? And I started seeing this and began coaching. And we all have a purpose. A lot of us know that. But if you walk around just saying, "I got a purpose," what does it do? So I started the program called Jump, joyfully unleashing a more powerful purpose.
Mm.
Because your purpose isn't just a purpose to carry out. Your purpose is about how you impact others. You can take action if it has no impact on others. It's not really your purpose. It's your activity. And I believe we get to do that joyfully. And until we know who we are and infuse our lives with our faith and our belief, you know what? We can't unleash it the way we should. So
Mm.
we have joyfully unleashing a more powerful purpose. It had to have two P's for two reasons. Number one, I can't spell. And and secondly, I'm a faith-centered coach.
Hmm.
And we serve a God of abundance. So it's got an extra P. And God loves me with all my extra quirks like the extra P.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
that's where jump comes from. And I see that people who are stepping into it are having that understanding of who they are in Christ, and with that, their gifts and how they get to incorporate them into their businesses to create a ripple of joy in their success that goes through the world. And you
Mm.
might think, I can't make a difference that's going to go in the whole world. Stand next to another person making a ripple, and you've got a crescendo of ripples.
Ooh, yes.
So
Yes.
everybody is called to have a powerful purpose. And I am so privileged that I get to be part of that in the lives of the people I coach. My
Yes, indeed.
passion is to see everybody find that joy.
Mm. And I know that you are doing that because even with me just knowing you, you definitely do that. And so say if a person is listening to you or watching you and they want to say, hey, I want more of what she's got. And y'all, we haven't even talked about her having TEDx talks. I am going to bring up something else or prior to us closing, but how can a person connect with you, Nikki, if they want to learn more about you, if they want to even contact you possibly for even coaching, if maybe you have courses or books or anything? How can a person find you?
You can find me very easily on Facebook with my name, Nikki, Nikki, cruise like the ship, Cruise, and it's actually .7. You can also find me at support at joy-inspired.com, which is my email. And on LinkedIn, Nikki at Joy Inspired. That's it.
That's
But
right.
I would love you
And
to just reach out in Messenger on Facebook.
mhm. Yes, and I will put all of the links and things in show notes. Just a couple of more quick questions, but I didn't want to end without mentioning this because I think it's such a powerful part of your transformative journey is that you were wheelchair bound for so many years and just in consistent pain. But in going back, this is why I even brought up something earlier is growing up in South Africa and with apartheid ending in the late 1980s, you had an incredible experience later in your life with a very notable person, a very notable human being in general. Take us to the moment when you had the opportunity to shake hands with a certain someone and how humility plays a role in personal transformation, yours and that person. So, humility as a concept as a whole, because you are a humble person. And I think it's always best that a person who knows a person says that about someone. I'm the kind of person I don't necessarily say I'm a humble person. I think that's something that other people should say. But this full circle moment, take us to the moment of when you shook hands with a certain someone.
First of all, thank you for recognizing that. And
Mm,
that's God's grace that's made me humble, or kept me
mm,
humble. And I pray it will continue. I was talking about my dad teaching me about humility earlier, and that's obviously not where God wanted to stop it. My sister and I were, contrary to all the cultural norms, doing computer training at the ANC in South Africa
mm,
just shortly after the release of Nelson Mandela. And in fact, it was round about the time when there were people storming the World Trade Center in South Africa, where they were having racial talks, trying to create peaceful outcomes. And at that time, we were training downtown in the ANC building, which I think there were only about 5 other white faces there.
mm.
And I was standing outside in the afternoon, waiting for my ride home. And up pulled this very fancy car, which you didn't see too often in that part of town.
Mhm.
And this gentleman got out, and I didn't take too much notice. I was too blocked by these huge, big bodies walking towards me protectively. And as they started walking past, the person they were walking protectively in front of stepped out sideways, put his hand out, and I looked up, and it was Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
And I shook hands with Nelson Mandela that day, and he wasn't going to let his bodyguards or anybody stop him. He knew that I had been there training, and he
Mm,
said, "Thank you very much." And what's amazing about this great man who had gone through so much and was now revered, he had been released from prison just months before, and he knew he was popular, he knew he was powerful, and yet he still had the humility to step aside and shake my hand. Firstly, a young white woman who in his culture would be totally rejected as being
mm,
somebody who had caused so much hurt and so much pain. I
mm.
saw the forgiveness firsthand when he reached out and took my hand.
Wow.
But
Oh,
the other thing, Nelson
boy.
Mandela never went to those offices without walking every single floor and shaking hands with every single employee of the ANC, the people
Mm.
who had supported, fought for, and helped him get out of prison.
Ah,
Every single person.
mm,
And I'd always respected him. I respect his attitude to life, to freedom, to cultural diversity. He says, don't lose your diversity. The diversity is beautiful, but don't fight about it. Don't belittle people, because see the value in every person. And he's
mm,
always been one of my heroes. So that's one of my favorite stories. I was serving,
mm.
teaching
Oh,
there, kind of outside of my element,
yeah,
culturally, not in
yeah.
the right place. And look at the reward, shaking hands with somebody who's known globally.
And you touch the lives of so many as the joy junkie. So, in closing, Nikki, as I have just said, you have been coined as the joy junkie. So, leave us with a word of encouragement, inspiration, or joy that you could give to a listener or viewer right now who may not be feeling joyous, who may think that there is no hope. What would you say to them?
I would say, stop for a moment. Stop criticizing yourself. Find one precious, valuable thing about yourself that you can see. And if you can't see one, just look at what somebody else has said good about you. And if nobody's ever said anything good about you, give me a call, because we are all so valuable and precious. But then take that something and share it with somebody else, that's something you value about yourself, and ask them to share something with you. You will have brought light and joy to somebody else's life at the same time as lifting yourself up, because you're recognizing your worth. And
Mm,
don't forget to just say a little thank you for having that value in your life. One little step that has three sides to it. See something you value, share it with somebody else to lift them up. It'll boost your self confidence too. And then stand in gratitude for what you have. And you get bonus points if you ask the other person to share their thing with somebody else as well.
paying it forward. And Nikki, you certainly do that. You add value to my life as well as to other people's lives. I am so glad that you are here. I am so glad that you shared this incredible testimony. And even if someone's watching or listening and they may not share our faith, at least perhaps this will give them a new idea that, hey, if a miracle or something inexplicable could happen for her, then I think that it could happen for me too. So, Nikki, thank you for simply being you. Thank you for being a light in this world that is so much needed. I love you sincerely. And again, I appreciate your time spent here on the Power Transformation Podcast.
Thank you so much. And I always look forward to seeing who you're going to share about next.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow or subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. It helps us inspire even more listeners. And don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could use a little power in their transformation. Until next time, keep bouncing back, keep rising, and be good to yourself and to others.